So good afternoon, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be in here. So for today's or this session's discussion, it's gonna be around banks versus fintech, CEO's perspective on competition, collaboration, and also coexistence. Maybe as an opening remarks, as we are all aware that over the years between banks and fintechs, it's no longer about the competition, but we can see that those two can exist, collaborate, and also to create value together. So with regards to that, we will further discuss about banks versus fintech. I'm gladly joined by Pak Nobu. Pak Nobu is the President Director of Bank Danamon Indonesia, and he's also, prior to his role, he's the Commissioner of Bank Danamon for 6 years, and then the CEO for Asia Pacific of MUFG Bank, and then he's the in charge person for the M&A of MUFG in Southeast Asia. So we have a very senior person here in the room. Thank you for joining me in the discussion today, Pak Nobu.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your introduction and good morning, and thank you very much for having me here and attending this session. I'm looking forward to have an enjoyable and a communication dialogue with my moderator here. And just to put one thing, so I was all the way involved or leading MUFG's M&A activities in this region for more than 13 years. And along that journey, I acquired Bank Danamon in 2019. And so it was just a matter of time when I lead Bank Danamon. And this April, it was my honor to become the CEO of Bank Danamon. But it's still 3 months. But not only we acquired bank, MUFG also invested in many fintech companies. Recently, we invested in GCash in the Philippines or True Money in Thailand. In Indonesia, we also invested in Akulaku. And we are still looking good opportunities, for MUFG or Bank Danamon to grow more. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe if we can start the discussion with regards to the banks and fintech, Pak Nobu. So noted that we've been discussing about those two. How do you view the relationship between banks and fintechs? Whether you think it's a competition or it's a collaboration between those two?
Well, I have to say that especially in the past, banks deemed fintech as disruptors, meaning that competitors. I have to say that most of the bankers are arrogant. Please allow me to say that because I'm also a banker. And we believe that banks are in the epicenter of the financial services. We didn't like young guys wearing jeans doing financial services. So we rather wanted to build everything in-house. But ironically, those activities helped banks' digitalization. So it improved our banking apps. Also, it made our financial services more seamless. But at the same time, if we look at the reality, the fintech companies are growing a lot. And their importance is, increasing and increasing. Especially the good fintechs attached to ecosystem or the payment side, e-wallet side. Some are very good in cross-border remittance. Some are very good in blockchain technologies. So now I gradually start seeing collaborations. So I have to say it's still competition. But maybe we are seeing some selective collaborations happening.
Okay, yeah. Selective collaboration. I think that's the key word. So with regards to the selective collaboration, noted that fintech will have its own strength and banks will also have its own strength. So how do you see those two, Pak Nobu?
So for fintech companies, they are very agile, very good at adopting the latest technologies. And that brings, a very good cost efficiency. They don't have, legacy, which, all the banks, carry. And also, the another thing is the entrepreneurship. The last session was talking about how you can challenge and fail. I think that's also the strength of fintech companies. They do challenge, they sometimes fail, but the cycle is very short, so they can continuously improve themselves. So for me, those are the strengths of fintech companies. Whereas banks, of course, especially on the corporate side, we are very strong, still very strong. And also, wherever human touch, physical arrangements are needed, still banks are playing a big role. Even in the individual side, I will say the high net worth side may prefer having a human interaction. So still, there's, I see strengths in both sides, but where competing the most is probably on the low to middle income individual sides. So this area is something that we have to think about.
So banks is more on the corporate or the bigger ticket size, and then fintech is more on the smaller ticket size. But you're saying that those two are still collaborating each other. Noted. And then you also previously mentioned about the importance of ecosystem, right? Maybe you can also share a bit if Danamon is going to make another acquisition or collaboration, what sort of ecosystem are you looking for from those companies?
Okay, so another, probably the strengths and weakness, fintechs and banks have, for example, is banks, we still have a huge customer base. I have to say we have a huge customer base. But the problem is our customers or our data is static. Just think about how many times you open bank apps in a day or in a month. Most of the people may open once a month to check their salaries, coming in. But the people here attending this conference may be very rich, so maybe opening the bank accounts every day and smiling, looking your balance. But anyway, the bank apps is not a daily used app yet. Compared to some fintechs connected to a good ecosystem like the e-commerce, e-wallets, or ride-hailing apps. Those are more daily used and more dynamic apps. So they have more rich dynamic data, whereas bank has a stable static data. So this is the differences. So for a bank, we have to have a little bit mind shift whether we should acquire more those dynamic ecosystem, whether we can more embed it into those ecosystem.
See, okay. And then I think with regards to the regulators play also a crucial role with regards to the collaboration between banks and also the fintech. So how do you see the regulators' role in this case, and then how do you see the future banking in terms of the regulators' role in this?
So regulators play the critical role for fintechs to grow. Okay. Some examples, like if you look in Brazil or India, the government prepared a very advanced payment system, which all the fintech companies, all the financial institutions can, rely on, tap on, So that's one way how, the regulator helped the digital ecosystem to grow. But if you're talking more in general, I also see this kind of cases. We invested in a small fintech company, and that company was growing dramatically in a very good shape and manner. But once they grew big, they also attract attention from many stakeholders. Once your customer base grow large, then for sure you will have some troubles or issues with your clients. And if the numbers grow, those issues, trouble, will sometimes go up to the regulator. And then the regulator will notice, oh, I didn't know this company, but now I should have to, pay attention more on these guys, right? So this kind of thing is always happening, and the new regulation comes in, But that's needed, meaning that how regulators are going to protect the consumers. And especially the fintech companies can deal with small tickets, meaning that low middle income segment are targeted, then it's the matter of how much they are explaining about the risk of the financial services they are selling to those customers. If that is not enough, of course they have to improve. So always there's a customer protection element there. Whereas at the same time, if you do that too much, that will also hinder the growth of the fintech companies. So it's the matter of how you balance those two. And we see some, sandbox concepts, which the regulators are also providing. So those are very important for the healthy growth of the fintech companies. And at least I see, BI and OJK is very serious on doing this. And I'm also having a very good dialogue with them.
Yeah, I think I agree. Whereby regulators needs to strike the balance, not too rigid, but also not too flexible. Yeah, there needs to be a balance between those two. Okay. Now we are talking about the artificial intelligence. Nobu-san, how do you see the roles of artificial intelligence impacting the bank and also the fintechs? And how do you see in the 5 to 10 years from now the evolution between those two?
So you're talking about AI, right?
Yeah, artificial intelligence.
Yeah. This is something that we cannot ignore, but it's easy to say, but to be honest, not so easy to adapt or create a good use case, to see a significant impact into your business. So you may see the headlines that many banks are boasting that we already adopted many AI's initiative, right? If I'm getting an interview from media, of course I have to say like that, But if you see their financial statements, then do you see a real cost to income ratio improvement? I believe, we are not still seeing those, right? And even on the fintech side, because MEFG, we invested in, a handful of fintech companies. Last year, I did an interview, to the CTO or CITO of those fintech companies, which are more AI native companies, right? So at the beginning, they're saying that, oh, Nobu-san, look, because we adopted AI, look, the turnover time of the loan approval, became 1/10. Look, this case, I did it, I shrunk that in 1/10, right? So I have to ask them, okay, so is that applicable to all the loan applications? They told me that, oh, I just told you the best examples. Okay, so this is even happening in fintech companies. But the problem is, anyway, the AI is evolving, and which you can really daily feel from the apps that you have in your, phone, smartphone, right? Like the Claude GTP, the involvement within 2-3 months, you can feel how they are improving. So this is something that, we cannot, ignore. So we are trying to adapt as much as possible. But if going back to your question, another way that could disrupt the fintechs, even the fintech side is, looking the involvement. Like, e-commerce came in, then the financial services attached to that. After that, we can see, how TikTok merchants are growing, right? How people are buying, things through TikTok, right? It was before more on the e-commerce side. TikTok is increasing. Now we are hearing that, the AI merchants are coming in. People search what they want through the AI app and they buy it through them. Or they plan their travel and they buy the ticket through AI. So even in the fintech side, the trend may shift. So this is how I see, the speed of the changes in this field.
Noted. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Nobu. So it is something that you cannot ignore, nor all the fintech investments that you have made, something that they also need to embrace going forward. Yeah. Okay. So I think we still have a couple of minutes. Maybe we can open for a Q&A session, Pak Nobu. If there is any questions to Pak Nobu that you would like to ask.
Thank you. Kawasaki-san, thank you for your inspiring presentation. Can you say more about how you're evolving the culture at Bank Danamon in terms of leadership mindset, innovation, disruption, and getting people, thinking like a startup within the bank? I'd be very curious to learn more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. First, I'll talk about, MUFG. It could be more interesting. I mean, MUFG is one of the biggest bank in Japan, okay? And we have 1/3 of the shares of our individuals in Japan. So every 1/3, Japanese people have a MUFG account. So, however, there was a discussion whether MUFG should create a digital bank or not, okay? But there was two camps, One camp is conservative, one camp is aggressive. But the old camp were saying that, if we create a digital bank and they start, acquiring customers, we will lose 1/3 of, our customer from how much they, acquire, right? So the old camp was always saying like that, and they were against. But finally, we decided to establish a digital bank because now we are no more able to ignore the fact that the younger generations, they don't walk into a branch and open an account. They go through more a digital way. And the digital banks or digital platformers are enjoying those, new accounts opening. So finally, that's the reason why MUFG adopted. Whereas, if I'm talking about Danamon is still a mid-sized bank. We can still move nimble, and we can decide faster. And I'm a strong believer of the digitalization. And also, the example that I gave you in Japan, but I'm also a believer of those platformers or the dynamic, customers acquisition type things. So I'm now talking with my team members how we can, think about, partnering with those, ecosystem players and acquire more. It could be a more younger customer, but, at the end of the day, they will grow and become the real customer for Bank Danamon. So that is something that I'm telling to my team, and luckily, they're listening to me.
Okay, thanks for the question. Any other question?
What I wanted to kind of check, and it was very refreshing thought for me when you talked about AI, saying that it's not a blind adoption. But this is a very contrarian view because still, everywhere it is all about saying, let's implement AI, adopt AI and all those things. So just want to hear more about, where is that thinking kind of coming, saying, let's go slow. And do you think this AI party is getting slower in your assessment? Thank you.
Yeah, so you're asking about the AI?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence, you mentioned you're not blindly implementing and it going slow in your companies, but this is very contrarian view. Everyone else is going really hard and push on AI. So what is the reason you are having that cautious view on artificial intelligence?
Okay, maybe, I explained wrongly, So we have, many AI tools in our bank, and people are using that for sure. And, we're seeing some, easiness or, efficiency coming in. But my point was, whether those AIs are giving the real impact to the company. Okay, whether we are seeing a big, improvement in our profit and losses because of the AI coming in. What I was saying that it's not yet that stage, So we're trying, doing our best, but I have to say we're still on the way. But we have to continue. So I think that is the point,
So in the end, it's the implementation of AI and how it impacts to the profitability, Pak Nobuya. Okay? Okay, so I think that concludes our discussion for this session with regards to the banks versus fintech CEO's perspective on competition, collaboration, and coexistence. Yeah, thank you for the attention and also the opportunity. And also thank you, Pak Nobu, for sharing with us. Thank you very much.